What did someone do to your baby without permission? My name is Richard, and so is my father's and his father's going back 5 generations, handed down like a curse no one had the guts to break. As a kid, I thought I hated the name Richard. Then I realized I hated what the name meant. My dad was the kind of man who used his hands for 2 things only: discipline and prayer. Just like every other Richard before him. Everyone assumed I'd turn out the same way, but I fought against that my whole life. When my wife, who I treat like the goddess she is, found out she was pregnant with our son, I knew 2 things right away. The first was that he was never going to hear the toxic crap I did growing up. That boys don't cry and the way to solve problems is with your fists. The second was that he would not be named Richard. My wife and I picked a name we loved, and he was born looking like the spitting image of her. We thanked God. My dad visited us in the hospital the morning after birth and said, "How's the new little Ricky doing?" So I took a deep breath and told him our son's actual name. He looked confused. "Well, that can be his middle name if you want. But Richard's going on the certificate, right?" "No," I said. "It isn't." There was this long pause. Then he muttered, "Ungrateful little shit," and left. We thought that was the end of it, and we'd gotten off relatively easy. We were wrong. 2 days after we got home, dozens of birth announcements went out in the mail. Except we hadn't sent them. My father did, and he sent them to everyone he knew. "Welcome Richard, last name, 6th of his name." The postscript said, "Proud to continue the tradition." I thought he was just being a stubborn prick until our son's birth certificate came in the mail, and there it was, Richard. I confronted my father, and he proudly admitted he'd logged into our hospital's patient portal and submitted a request to change our baby's name to Richard so that I wouldn't be letting my hormonal wife talk me into making an unforgivable error in judgment. And since he and I have the same freaking name, the hospital thought it was me submitting the request, and they granted it. He had gone behind my back to change my son's name. My wife was upset, but I was livid. I went straight to the courthouse and changed his name back. Then I contacted the hospital to change all my passwords to make sure my father no longer had access to anything. And then I slapped on a smile, called my father, and told him the date of his granddad's christening. He showed up with a gold monogrammed rattle. "To my namesake," it said. Ha! The priest looked over the crowd and asked us all if we presented Elijah James to be baptized, and my dad's mouth fell open. I held the baby, got right in his face, and whispered, "He will never have your name, and I will never be like you." He walked out mid-service without another word, and I haven't heard from him since.